welcome to today's deep dive. If you're joining us to get a shortcut to being well-informed, you are absolutely in the right place.
Yeah, we've got a really incredible one for you today.
We do. So today we are looking at this really fascinating stack of sources. We've got investor decks, proprietary framework documents, some website copy, and creative briefs. And they all come from this company called the Golden Life Community, LLC.
Right.
And our mission for this deep dive is to explore this, pretty groundbreaking concept they call emotional technology. And we're going to unpack the psychological argument they make that building profound mental strength has to happen before we can truly preserve our life stories.
Yeah, it's a completely radical departure from how we usually think about technology, or even aging, really. Because when you look through these documents, you realize they are trying to just completely rewire how society approaches the later stages of life.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the hook for all of this, the reason this specific ecosystem even exists, is just this incredible true story. So I want you to imagine sitting in a doctor's office, right? And the doctor looks at your chart and tells you that it's time to, quote unquote, get your affairs in order.
Which is just, the ultimate medical and cultural signal to just stop building, right, to just wrap things up.
Right, exactly. Usually when someone hears those words, they start, organizing paperwork, making phone calls, just preparing for the end. But what if, instead of doing that, you went home, sat in your recliner while on 24/7 oxygen, and just decided to build an entire tech ecosystem?
Which is wild.
It is. But that is exactly what the founder of this company did. We were talking about Kathy Tarochione.
Yeah.
And according to the source material, she's a 79, soon-to-be 80-year-old founder dealing with COPD, congestive heart failure, and rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And back in 2022, she was told to prepare for the end. But she survived a stroke, she survived COVID pneumonia, and she built this company from her recliner with her dog Charlie and this stuffed dog named Tark.
When you analyze the investor decks, what stands out immediately is just the psychological foundation driving her. There's this one detail from when Kathy was 13 years old, right after her father passed away.
Oh, right, the psychiatrist quote.
Yeah. Her psychiatrist at the time, Virginia Barlow, told Kathy's mother, she said, she will never drown. She may have to tread water from time to time to stay afloat, but she will never drown.
That is just a remarkable thing for a medical professional to speak over a teenager. It just sets this this baseline of absolute resilience.
It really does. It became her internal compass, essentially. And you see that visceral survival instinct translated directly into the problem she decided to solve, because she looked at the demographic landscape and identified what she calls the invisible crisis.
The invisible crisis.
Yeah. The data in their decks points out that there are 56 million women over the age of 55 in the United States alone.
56 million. That phrasing, the invisible crisis, it really caught my attention, because if you look at Silicon Valley and the tech industry at large, they're chasing teenagers.
Right.
They're chasing 20-somethings. They're building apps for, productivity hackers. Women over 55 are arguably the most emotionally underserved demographic in the digital age. They are just entirely left out of the innovation loop.
They absolutely are. And that gap in the market is exactly where the concept of emotional technology was born. Because the documents outline a very, very clear distinction here.
Tell me more about that.
So traditional technology is built to optimize systems, right? It manages data, it schedules appointments, it tracks your heart rate or your step count.
Yeah, the usual stuff.
But emotional technology, as they define it, is built to support human beings. It's specifically designed to capture thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and then turn those into mental strength tools. So it's not preserving data, it's preserving human presence.
It makes me think of standard technology as a cold, sterile filing cabinet.
Yeah.
It just stores facts and figures. But emotional technology is positioned more like a specialized lens that captures the actual soul and warmth of a person's presence.
That's a great way to put it. And to understand how that specialized lens actually works, the source material focuses heavily on distinguishing between thoughts, emotions, and feelings.
Right, which was really interesting.
Yeah, because in common conversation, we use those words interchangeably. But in this framework, the distinction matters immensely.
Let's break that down, actually, because I noticed the documents were very particular about those definitions.
They really are. So in their system, thoughts are the stories we tell ourselves.
What?
Emotions are the body's physiological response. So the sudden racing heart, the tight chest.
Got it. And feelings.
Feelings are how our conscious mind interprets both the thoughts and the emotions. Traditional tech might just ask you to log a feeling on a scale of 1 to 10. But the golden method, which is the operating system driving this whole emotional technology, it's designed to work at all three of those levels simultaneously.
Which brings us to the core engine. Because you can't just hand someone an iPad and say, hey, be emotionally strong.
Exactly.
You need an operating system. And they call theirs the golden method. And what I found really fascinating was the hard line they draw between mental health and mental strength.
Oh, it's the bedrock of their entire philosophy. They state it so explicitly. They say, we do not fix what is broken, we build what is possible.
Which is such a shift.
It is,
Yeah.
because mental health in the traditional sense is often about addressing illness or, calming down a crisis. Mental strength, in their view, is about building up resilience. It's an active construction process, not just damage control.
And the mechanics of this operating system, they're built around an acronym, right? GOLDEN. The documents outline 6 specific steps. Ground yourself, own your thoughts, listen to your inner voice, decide with courage, empower your mind, and nurture meaningful connections.
Yeah, and what makes this function as an operating system rather than just like a motivational poster is how these steps address different layers of the human experience.
Give me an example of that.
So look at the first 2 steps. Ground yourself is about physical presence, right? It's pulling the body out of a panic state.
Okay, the physical layer.
Right. But own your thoughts tackles the cognitive layer. It forces a woman to recognize that she gets to decide what she actually believes, separating the fearful story she's telling herself from the objective reality of her situation.
When I read the proprietary framework documents, I immediately threw my walls up at some of the terminology.
Really? Like what?
Well, for example, they have these signature techniques, and one is called the golden hug.
Ah, yes.
It's described as a 20-second intentional embrace. And my skeptical brain immediately asks, is this just another toxic positivity framework?
Yeah.
It sounds a bit like, just hug it out and manifest your way out of congestive heart failure. Did you get that impression from the materials at first?
I mean, I completely understand why you'd ask that, given the language. But the clinical context they provide completely dismantles the toxic positivity angle.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, toxic positivity demands that you ignore the bad, right? This framework demands that you face it, but it equips your nervous system to survive it. When they talk about the golden hug, they aren't talking about, greeting cards. They're talking about neuroscience.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, a 20-second intentional embrace is scientifically proven to release oxytocin and lower cortisol levels. They're addressing the severe touch starvation and cognitive overwhelm that happens when an aging person is isolated or dealing with chronic pain.
Wow, okay, so that context changes everything. It's a biological intervention, not just a nice gesture.
Exactly.
And they pair that with something called the golden second, right? Which is defined as the micro moment between a stimulus and your response.
Right. The technology trains women to intercept negative thought patterns in that exact second before the body dumps stress hormones.
That's incredibly powerful.
It is. The system is highly practical because it was forged in an ICU, not a yoga retreat. And you see that practicality most clearly in what they call the MUD room.
The MUD room, yeah, MUD. Meet, unburden, decide. Explain how this fits into the ecosystem, because this really seemed to be their answer to the traditional mental health system.
Yeah, so it's the emotional processing core of the platform. Think about the reality for a lot of women dealing with a crisis. The traditional system tells them to, call a hotline or wait 3 weeks for a therapist appointment.
Which is useless in an emergency.
Right. What happens when she's spiraling at 2 in the morning? The MUD room is designed as a 24/7 peer-to-peer space.
So it's this continuous, completely accessible environment.
Yes, women go there to meet in silence, unburdened without judgment or someone trying to fix them and then make an empowered decision to move forward. It acknowledges the pain, the literal mud of life, but it provides a structured way to refuse to drown in it. It acts as an emotional infrastructure.
Okay, so if we accept that the golden method and the MUD room are highly effective at regulating the nervous system and rebuilding mental strength, what happens next?
Right, the legacy part.
Because the documents insist that this inner work is a non-negotiable prerequisite. You cannot leapfrog the MUD room and go straight to preserving a legacy. Why is the sequencing so rigid?
Well, it comes down to the psychology of marginalized demographics. If you look at how traditional legacy companies operate, they essentially hand a client a beautifully bound journal or an audio recording app, provide a list of prompts, and say, hey, tell us your life story.
Which seems logical on the surface, right?
Yeah.
You want the story? You provide the microphone.
But it completely fails to account for the human condition. Think about it. A woman who has been culturally conditioned for decades to feel invisible, who doesn't fully believe her story holds value, she'll naturally edit herself.
She minimizes it.
Exactly. She will minimize her struggles. She will sanitize the narrative and leave out the really gritty, complex parts of her survival because she just assumes no one really cares to hear it.
I think anyone listening to this can picture an older woman in their own life right now.
Mhm.
Your mother, your grandmother, a mentor.
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone just shoved a microphone in her face today out of the blue, would she tell the powerful, unfiltered truth of what she survived? Or would she just give the polite, sanitized version of the family history that doesn't ruffle any feathers?
Almost certainly the polite version, because you cannot ask a woman to tell her story before she knows why her story matters. If her thoughts, the story she tells herself, are rooted in feeling invisible, the output is going to be invisible.
Right.
So the golden method rebuilds that core belief first. And that brings us to a specific tool they use called the Golden Vision Manifesto.
Yeah, I was really struck by the mechanics of this manifesto because it isn't a personality test where you answer multiple choice questions and it tells you who you are.
No, not at all.
The sources describe it as a deeply personal, living declaration built across 6 pillars. A woman decides who she is and what she still intends to create, and she reads it aloud daily.
It's an active mechanism for claiming identity. It's not about looking backward at what she used to be. It's about establishing unshakable authority in who she is right now.
That's a huge distinction.
It really is. And only once she has done that inner work, once she is mentally strong, grounded, and clear on her vision, only then is she emotionally ready to choose a legacy path. Because at that point, she's no longer telling her story from a place of insecurity or self-minimization.
Which transitions us perfectly into the actual suite of legacy products they offer. Gold on Legacy Forever. Because once she is ready to speak, the technology they are using to capture her presence is just wild.
Oh, it's incredible.
They have moved entirely beyond scrapbooks or passive home videos. They're building AI twins.
Yeah, the flagship product is called Golden Legacy Living Memoirs. And this is not a passive recording that just sits on a hard drive somewhere. It is a conversational presence.
Explain that.
The technological goal here is that a woman's great-grandchildren in the year 2125 can literally sit down and have a real-time conversation with her AI twin.
But how does that actually work without sounding like, I don't know, a generic customer service chatbot? The briefs mention that it requires highly specific data inputs.
It does. It requires training the AI on a massive data set of her personal anecdotes, her specific voice modulation, and her emotional mapping. And because the woman has already gone through the golden method, she's articulated her beliefs, her humor, and her worldview super clearly.
So the AI is trained on that authentic data.
Exactly. So when the great-grandchild asks a question, the AI doesn't just recite a historical fact. It responds using her specific cadence, her laughter, and her actual values. It preserves the full emotional presence.
And that concept of preserving the underlying values isn't just for personal family histories either. The sources outline a product called Golden Legacy Founder's Voice, which targets women business owners between the ages of 45 and 75.
This one addresses a completely different but honestly equally devastating kind of erasure.
Yeah.
When a female founder steps away from her business, whether due to retirement, selling the company, or, health issues, the company usually loses the why behind its creation.
Exactly. Because traditional succession planning leaves behind a sterile employee handbook or a static mission statement.
Yeah.
It provides rules, but it completely strips away the reasoning.
Right. Founder's Voice creates an AI twin of the founder that employees, successors, and partners can consult forever.
I love the analogy of a building here. Traditional succession is like inheriting a company's blueprint, right?
Yeah.
You know where the walls go, but you don't know why the building was designed that way.
Yes, perfect analogy.
Founder's Voice is like inheriting a direct line to the original architect's brain. I mean, imagine being a new hire 10 years after the founder retired. You run into a complex ethical dilemma, and you can just ask the founder's AI, hey, why did we establish this policy? And you get her actual philosophy and reasoning. That prevents the business from losing its soul.
Furthermore, it prevents the cultural loss of women's entrepreneurial stories, because women's business achievements are already severely underrepresented in historical records. This technology ensures her voice and her strategic brilliance echo through her company indefinitely.
But the ecosystem also accounts for women whose legacy isn't tied to a business, or for whom spoken words just aren't enough. They outline a creative product called Golden Legacy Story Songs.
Oh, this part is beautiful.
They take a woman's personal milestones and memories and transform them into original, personalized music. The documents note that Kathy actually writes the lyrics and performs the songs using her own cloned voice models.
Oh, just a brilliant use of AI for emotional resonance rather than just, like, productivity.
Absolutely. It takes the emotional weight of a life and turns it into a song that can be played at family gatherings for generations.
But what I found equally compelling is how they tackle the physical reality of legacy, because they have a framework called Golden Legacy Organizing, and they are very careful to distinguish this from the popular trend of death cleaning.
Okay, I really want to slow down on this part because the framing of life curating versus death cleaning, it completely shifts the paradigm of how you look at your own home.
It's a profound psychological shift. Death cleaning is fundamentally rooted in fear and scarcity. The mindset is basically, I'm going to die and I need to throw all my stuff away so my kids don't have to deal with the burden of my existence.
Which is such a grim, reductive process.
It is.
Whereas life curating is rooted in intention and abundance. The core question isn't, what should I throw away? It's what do I actually need to live well today?
Exactly. And they break this curation down into 5 domains: memory keepers, life logistics, daily essentials, community contributions, and future gifts.
I love that last one.
That last category, future gifts, really highlights the difference. Instead of throwing away a beautiful china cabinet out of fear that it'll be a burden later, life curating encourages you to pass that cabinet to your niece right now with intention.
So you can actually watch her enjoy hosting with it.
Right. It's about keeping what serves you beautifully right now and intentionally placing the rest where it belongs.
And this entire vision, the mental strength operating system, the AI twins, the life curating, it doesn't stop at digital tools or personal organization.
Mm-hmm.
The final section of the investor decks details their ambition to pull this ecosystem entirely into the physical world with something called golden spaces.
This is where the sheer scale of Kathy's vision becomes apparent. They aren't just building apps. They are planning 25-acre intentional physical communities. And the documents are incredibly explicit about this. This is not a senior living facility.
No, it is designed for women who are, quote, growing in motion, not aging in place.
Right. The concept is that the emotional technology and the golden method are literally built into the architecture of the neighborhood.
Try to imagine that.
Imagine a physical community where the MUD room isn't just an app on your phone, but it's a designated physical space designed for peer support, where you have broadcasting studios for recording memoirs, car-free walkways to encourage physical grounding, and AI smart home tech that supports your mental strength daily.
It's the physical manifestation of the entire philosophy.
It really is.
So when we step back and look at this massive stack of sources, the psychological frameworks, the AI twins, the architectural blueprints for physical communities, what is the overarching insight we should take away from all of this?
I think the insight is that society has been looking at aging and legacy through the wrong end of the telescope, honestly. We've treated aging women as a logistical problem to be managed, and we've treated legacy as a box of dusty photos in an attic. Kathy Tarochione looked at an invisible crisis and built a radically human solution. She proved that technology doesn't have to be a cold, system-driven tool. It can be profoundly emotional.
Yeah.
But above all, the critical takeaway is that you cannot preserve a legacy until you've built the mental strength to realize your life was worth preserving in the first place.
And she built this entire ecosystem while living her own guiding philosophy. There's a quote in the documents that she heard from Mother Teresa back in 1996. It says, "When I look forward, I see what is right in front of me. If I see someone in need, I act on it."
Yeah.
Kathy saw millions of women in need of emotional infrastructure, and she acted on it from a recliner.
It's a powerful reminder that our deepest physical limitations can sometimes serve as the exact birthplace for our greatest innovations.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own today. Building on everything we've explored regarding the golden method, mental strength, and AI twins. If an emotional technology AI were to capture your presence right now, today, what invisible strengths or stories are you currently minimizing? And what inner work do you need to do before you are truly ready to leave your own unfiltered legacy?
That is a question well worth sitting with.
Because remember, you do not have to wait until a doctor tells you to get your affairs in order to figure out who you are and what you are building. Like Virginia Barlow said back in 1960, you may have to tread water from time to time. Oh, wait, excuse me. You may have to tread water from time to time, but you will never drown.